To understand Roman beliefs and religion, let us first think about some of the early inhabitants of what we now call Italy, the people who had been there and whose children and grandchildren would later be called citizens of Rome. Back then, before Rome was a powerful city, most people in the area, such as the Etruscans and the Greeks, were farmers. In ancient times, people had very little scientific understanding about weather and climate patterns. They did not have a scientific explanation for why the seasons change, or even why day turns to night. All people knew was that they had to survive in a challenging and dangerous world in which anything could happen: floods, droughts, diseases, and plagues of insects, just to name a few. Sometimes things were fine, and farmers could enjoy great, bountiful harvests. Other times it rained just enough for farmers to harvest the amount of food they needed. Working the fields all day, an ancient farmer must have had time to think and ask questions about why things were the way they were. Why does it rain some years and not others? Why are my sheep healthy while my neighbor's flock of sheep became sick and died? Why did a flood come and wash away all my crops last year? An ancient Roman farmer would have believed in a mythical god named Saturn, who was, according to the myth, the god of the harvest, who existed before all the other gods. Whether the harvest was good or bad, the Roman farmer believed that Saturn had something to do with it. If the harvest was bad, then that meant Saturn was mad. If the harvest was bountiful, then that meant Saturn was happy. This painting shows a statue of Saturn holding a scythe in one hand. A scythe is a tool used by farmers to cut wheat. Ancient Romans tried to keep Saturn and the other mythical gods they believed in happy. Romans participated in the yearly Saturnalia festival in late December to honor Saturn. This was a time of boisterous celebration with singing, dancing, and feasting all day and night. Somewhere nearby, there might have been an elaborate temple for Saturn. A temple is a type of religious building in which people worship. This picture shows a well-preserved temple that was built by the Romans in what is now called the country of France. This temple gives you a good idea of what a temple built to worship a mythical Roman god would look like. Inside the temple, there would have been a statue of the Roman god and an altar, or a special table where gifts could be left for them. Priests were often dedicated to a particular god. Priests dedicated to Saturn lived in his temple and performed rituals to please him. They made offerings to Saturn, like delivering food to the temple to thank him for helping with the harvest. Agriculture was not the only thing for which the Romans had a mythical god. In fact, some ancient Romans believed that the world was ruled by many gods, each of which played a special role in keeping order in the world. Romans were not alone in believing that there were many gods. Some beliefs were common throughout the world at the time. As you heard earlier, the Romans had similar ideas about gods and goddesses as the Greeks and other neighbors in the Mediterranean region. East of the area that is now the country of Italy, there is another area that juts out into the Mediterranean Sea. This is now known as the country of Greece. If you compare Greek and Roman culture, you will find many similarities or ways they are alike. In ancient days, it was easier to travel by boat than by land between the areas where Italy and Greece are located today. Both of those countries are separated by a fairly narrow body of water that is dotted with dozens of large and small islands. Ancient people of Greece and Rome often came into contact with each other on those islands or on another's coastlines as people searched for new places to settle. This close contact brought lots of trade between people, including the blending and exchanging of ideas and beliefs. Many Romans had heard of Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, who was believed to rule over a collection of gods, including Aphrodite, the mythological goddess of love, Apollo, the mythological god of the sun, music, healing, and knowledge, Ares, the mythical god of war, and Athena, the mythical goddess of wisdom and understanding. Greeks went to Athena's temple and worshipped her when they needed help with tough problems. She was also considered to be the goddess of war, which is why she has a spear and a helmet. The Romans also believed in many of the same types of gods and goddesses that the Greeks believed in, although the Romans had different names for most of them because they had a different language. Some historians would say that the Romans borrowed these gods and goddesses from the Greeks, although the idea of many of these deities may have already existed before the Greeks, and Romans had even encountered one another. The mythical Greek goddess of wisdom, Athena, was similar to the Roman goddess, Minerva. The Greek king of the gods was named Zeus. The Romans called their king of the gods Jupiter. Instead of the Greek name Ares, the mythical Roman god of war was called Mars. Instead of the Greek name Aphrodite, the mythical Roman goddess of love was called Venus. Like the Greeks, the Romans believed that some of the gods and goddesses lived in a palace on the very top of Mount Olympus in Greece. These beings were known as the Olympian gods.